Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the DFO DFS show for October the 12th. Opening day in the NHL. Hockey is back. If you guys did not watch the DFO DFS show last year, I do this Monday through Friday, breaking down the game from a little bit of a different perspective. I go through coaching matchups in each team's lines to try to find the best line stacks and value options on every slate. If you are an avid DFO user, you will know that there's been a lot of changes this year. Obviously, the website looks different. We've added Frank Saravalli, Bryce Salvador, Mike McKenna, Tim Peel, many more people to our roster. And it's just an exciting season at DFO. It used to be just me. Now it's everybody and then some. So if you have any questions as we go through today's show, feel free to drop them in the comment section and I will get to them as we go along here. We'll start with the goalies, just letting you know who is in and who is out. Because it's the first day of the season, goaltending news can be a little bit more difficult to come by just because they just don't really say that Andrei Vasilevskiy is starting because Andrei Vasilevskiy started. But it's supposed to be, or it should be, Andrei Vasilevskiy versus Tristan Jarry in the first game. The Lightning hosting the Penguins. That's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. The Vegas Golden Knights will then host the Seattle Kraken in their first ever NHL game. It's going to be Robin Lehner confirmed for the Golden Knights. Expect to see Philip Grubauer, who was first off the ice this morning, for the Kraken. So let's get into it. Do I re-up for DFO charts or should my account still be good? So because we changed everything, we canceled all the old subscriptions. So just if you'll have to re-up your subscription to get access to this, but the price and everything is all the exact same as it was last year. We've got a brand new lineup optimizer as well, brand new daily projections. So should be really good. And I'll get to some of that stuff as we go, just to show you guys exactly what we've got going on. But anyways, let's get to the charts here. So in 5v5 score, we've got Vegas 1 coming out on top, Tampa Bay 1 as the second option, Vegas 2 in third, and Seattle 1 as the fourth best line stack. So again, if you are new to the show, I'll explain a little bit what this means. So basically, the 5v5 score is just an easy number to look at that breaks down everything that we're about to go through, all of the matchups, all of the numbers. So this is the number that really is important. It tells you who has the biggest advantage at 5v5. And tonight that looks like it's Vegas 1, but we'll break it down a little bit more in terms of the matchup. So we'll start with the Tampa Bay game. Tampa Bay 1, which is Braden Point, Andre Palat, and Nikita Kucherov. Nikita Kucherov back in the regular season for the first time in a while. They're going to see mostly the top 6 of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, keep in mind, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, things are going to change this year, right? I mean, we're going off of a lot of stuff that we've seen last year. Seattle's never played a game, so take a lot of this information today with a grain of salt, and as the season continues to progress, we'll get much better information. But obviously, a lot of these players have played together. We've got numbers on them outside of the Seattle Kraken. So for the Lightning, the top line should see a lot of the Pittsburgh top 6, which is obviously going to be shorthanded with no Sidney Crosby, no Evgeny Malkin. The second line, Cirelli and Stamkos. With Alex Killorn, should see a little bit more of the second line, which is the Evan Rodriguez line, and the fourth line of the Penguins. The third line of the Lightning. Now, this is where things could get interesting, right? Because last year they used Yanni Gourde, in a shutdown role pretty prominently. Will they continue to use their third line role like that, or will that duty kind of fall a little bit more on somebody like Anthony Cirelli? So, these numbers here could very well go up to the Cirelli line, and the Cirelli line's numbers could drop down to Tampa 3. Everything is changing because it's a new season, so just keep that in mind tonight. But if it stays the same, Ross Colton will go up against the top 6 primarily of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the fourth line of the Tampa Bay Lightning should see a lot of the third line. But again, could some of that Yanni Gourde playing time fall on Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, who's a very difficult center to play against, and maybe they take on a little bit more of a defensive role against the top 6? All these things remain to be seen. So just, again, keep all of that in mind. For the Penguins, obviously, that kind of just means that their top 6 is going to see a big mix of the top 9 of the Lightning. The third line should see a lot of the fourth line if all things hold true there. So like I mentioned off the top, Tampa Bay 1 looks like they're in the best spot in this matchup. Pittsburgh 1 coming in as second, and then all the other lines in this game look pretty much below average. Tampa Bay won, obviously really, really good with Kucherov back. The numbers are terrific. 2.5 expected goals for per 60, or 33 scoring chances for per 60, 12 high danger, just outstanding numbers across the board. Very, very similar. And again, if you're new, O score basically is the offensive score, just kind of takes all of these numbers into account and averages out against the rest of the lines on tonight's slate. So you'll see that Tampa Bay won, obviously one of the best offensive lines on the slate. And then you've got Vegas 1 and Vegas 2 rounding out basically the top 3. So Tampa Bay won going up primarily against this Penguins top 6. They should be okay. I mean, the Jeff Carter line, for what it's worth, was pretty good defensively last year, but handling Tampa Bay 1 for a full evening is a little bit more of a difficult task than probably what he was asked to do a lot last year. So I don't really think that Tampa Bay 1 will have too much trouble against Jeff Carter, Danton Hyman, and Brian Rust. But it is worth noting that Jeff Carter was pretty solid last year in a smaller role. As for Pittsburgh 2, they were below average defensively. Evan Rodriguez, not really known for his defensive style of play. Let's just pull up their line combinations here because, like I mentioned, they are missing a couple bodies. Zach Gaston-Reese also out for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So Jason Zucker, Kasperi Kapanen with Evan Rodriguez, again, not a line that you should really be afraid of if you're planning on playing Tampa Bay 1. So they should be able to have their way with this top 6 this evening, and obviously they're a prime candidate tonight. Remind us, where do we get access to the Google Sheet? So as of right now, this will all be live tomorrow. Again, we're still kind of developing a lot of this stuff. So right now, the Google Sheet is not available on the website, but it will be tomorrow. So you're just going to have to go with this. Luckily, it's only a 2-game slate, but for tomorrow's 5-game slate, it'll all be up, as well as the lineup optimizer and the daily projections. So there will be a link to the 5v5 score. Hopefully this year we're going to have it all actually on the website as opposed to Google Sheets. That's another thing that's in the works as well. So keep an eye out tomorrow. You'll have that tomorrow, but I can share this link in the YouTube comments here in a moment, just for today's games. So anyways, back to things here. Tampa Bay 2 really didn't do a whole lot last year. Cirelli, Killorn, Stamkos. So, I think that Stamkos and Killorn are decent options playing on the top power play unit for the Lightning. I really don't love Andre Palat. He's a little bit too expensive. A lot of his production came on the power play last year when he was filling in for Nikita Kucherov. Now that Kucherov's back, Palat's on the second unit, he's really not going to be in for the same level of production he was last year. So not super in love with Palat tonight, who comes in at 5,800. There's just much better options. I think I would rather go down to somebody like Stamkos, who's only $100 more, and will be on that top power play unit with Point, Kucherov, and Hedman. So that's kind of the way I look at things. If you want to put Palat in, I'm sure it'll be a little bit lower owned than Stamkos just because of that price point. So that's up to you. But again, a lot of his production last year came on the power play, which he will not, see anywhere near that same level of production on the second unit. So I like Stamkos a lot more this evening. Killorn 2's on that top power play unit looks solid. So that's pretty much it from the Tampa perspective. I have a hard time targeting the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight. They're so thin, right? I mean, we'll go back to their line combinations. Without Malkin, without Crosby, without Gensel, they're really, really thin. I don't think Jeff Carter's going to have a lot of success against that Tampa team. A Tampa team that's very solid defensively. Evan Rodriguez as your second line center is not great. Obviously, the implied totals you'll see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, just 2.3 expected goals for the Penguins tonight, 3.6 for Tampa. So this should be a runaway for the Lightning tonight. Both the Lightning and the Golden Knights are massive favorites tonight, so they're obviously going to be pretty chalky, and for good reason. I think that if you are interested in targeting the Penguins, I think the second line's presents a little bit of value there. As you can see here, they grade out pretty similarly between the first and second line, and just getting Zucker at 4,400 and Kapanen at 4,800. I think that I think those price points are pretty solid for those two guys. They're both going to be on the top power play unit with Jeff Carter, with Chris Letang, with Brian Rust. So I think that obviously if you're going to fit some Penguins in, those two guys make the most sense for me. And then maybe you go down and pay down for somebody like Marcus Pettersson as a defensive punt option. He's going to see tops 4 minutes tonight with Mike Matheson out. He's going to see a little bit of power play time as well. So those are the three guys that I'm kind of looking at on the Penguin side of things. But mostly this looks like it could be an ugly start to the season for them. What do you think of Perry as a 1 week punt in a banger league? I mean, yeah, he's fine. It's going to be interesting to see how he starts. Obviously, I think that there's probably better options available depending on your league settings for season long. than Perry. But there's not a whole lot of games in week one, so if you want to pick him up, I think he's fine. But I'm assuming that there's probably guys on the waiver wire that are going to see a little bit more ice time than Corey Perry will with this Lightning team. All right, let's move on to the second game of the night. Vegas 1 obviously grades out extremely well. Vegas 2 very well as well. And then you got Seattle 1 coming in as their best option. But let's just keep in mind here, I just actually tweeted it out on Daily Faceoff on Twitter that Dave Haxall has said that he doesn't even know what his line combinations are going to be tonight. He's still kind of working through things. Marcus Johansson is going to play after going on the COVID-19 list yesterday, but they're going to be out with Jonas Donskoi. They're going to be without Jared McCann, Calle Yarncroc, Yanni Gourde, obviously still recovering from surgery, and Jamie Alexiak on the back end. So they're really shorthanded. He doesn't even know what their line combos are going to look like. So I don't know what their line combos are going to look like. So these are purely guesses based off of yesterday's practice and the fact that Johansson is back in. But I do think that there is some value here with the Kraken. I do think that they're probably going to get beat up pretty good. This is a very good Vegas team. It's just a lot to ask of this team in their first game to be missing so many key players. So I think it's going to be a big issue tonight for them. But I think if you look at somebody like Morgan Geekie and Ryan Donato, I think that those are two guys that look pretty solid tonight just based on how much they are. Morgan Geekie just 2,800. He should play massive minutes as a second line center. Ryan Donato just 2,700. Again, just two guys that are pretty offensive minded that can potentially get the puck in the net if they do end up scoring a goal tonight. Those two guys are among the favorites to do so. Donato on the top power play unit. Geekie will see some run on the second power play unit. So again, I'm probably looking to the Penguins and the Kraken as more of my value options tonight and trying to fit in some of these high-priced Vegas and Tampa players who should have huge nights to open the season. So again, you're just going to have to wait and see how these line combinations shake out. Obviously, I can't go in and see how productive these lines were together last year because they're all brand new. So we don't have a whole lot of information. It's hard to really dive into the Vegas side of things either because you really don't know what to expect from this Kraken team. All I would say is that Vegas top 6 showed to be really, really good last year, and they should have their way with a shorthanded Kraken team. So, if Donato and Geekie end up playing together like they did in practice yesterday, again, Johansson was out, but if they stick with that duo together, that's a super, super low-priced mini stack and two guys that are pretty offensive. Donato is a guy that shoots the puck, pretty regularly too, so you might be able to get just some real cheap value out of him there. So for Vegas, we'll go into the matchups a little bit. It really, again, doesn't matter because we don't know what to expect from this Kraken team, but it's basically going to be top 6 against top 6, bottom 6 against bottom 6 for the most part. So that I don't really have a whole lot of interest in Seattle's top line. I think that's the one line that we can probably count on definitely being together tonight, and that's Wenberg, Schwartz, and Eberle. They're reasonably priced, $5,000 for Schwartz, $5,100 for Wenberg, $4,600 for Eberle, but it's just a brutal matchup. They're going to be spending their whole night against the Stevenson, Pacioretty Stone line or the Carlson, Marchessault, Smith line. So it's just a terrible matchup. I just don't see there being a lot of success. Obviously, these are their best players. They're on the top power play unit. So there is reason to want to play them. All three of them correlate on the top power play unit. They might be low owned because of the matchup. So if you're building multiple lineups, maybe fitting in some Seattle one is a decent option because, like I said, they are pretty reasonably priced. Combined full stack at just $14,700. So you can play them, with a Vegas top line or Vegas the second line, or go to Tampa as well. If you're building multiple lineups, I would imagine they'll be relatively low owned, but maybe people will just pay for them because they're the top line. But the matchup is not good. Like I mentioned, we've got Vegas' top line, top 6 is just really, really good defensively. A terrific offensively. They really just dominate puck possession most of the night. 53.1 Corsi 4 percentage for Vegas 1, 57.2 for Vegas 2. Obviously, there's a lot to like about Vegas 1 tonight. They grade out as the best option on the slate. But they're very expensive at $19,000 a full stack. So I like Vegas 2 a little bit. And again, if you watch the show last year, you'll know that I often go down to Vegas 2 for some value as opposed to paying up for Vegas 1. They're very similar in their production. So I just don't really see the reason. Obviously, Max Pacioretty's a volume shooter, probably got a little bit of a safer floor, but that's baked into his salary at $7,100. So I really especially like Riley Smith, like $4,000 is just dirt cheap, way too cheap for him. He's always underpriced. But William Karlsson, very nice price at $5,200 as well. Marchessault's okay at $6,000. So I like Vegas 2 a little bit more than Vegas 1. But again, if you're building multiple lineups, you're going to want to have some exposure to Vegas 1 because they could absolutely break the slate to open the season. And realistically, they're not that crazy price. Pacioretty for 7,100. He's going to get up there higher than that at some point this season for sure. So that's basically that. As the season progresses, I am going to have a power play score, which I brought last year. I am going to have a goalie score as well. But again, just because it's so early in the season, I don't want to put too much stock into some of these numbers from last year, especially when you've got only 2 games and one of the teams is Seattle. We just know nothing about them right now. So yeah, obviously these sheets will continue to get more comprehensive as the season goes. So that's that. I will just show off now some of our new tools. Again, these are premium tools. You are going to have to pay for them, but I'll show them off for today because they are new. And obviously I got to get you to sign up for them somehow. So here we've got our daily projections, which again, just they feed into the lineup optimizer, which you can see here. But if you want to just sort through the table a little bit cleaner, try to find guys who shoot a lot. Pacioretty expected to projected to lead the night in shots tonight. Jeff Carter looks really solid. Marchessault up there as well, as I mentioned before. But again, Ryan Donato, 2.5 shots at 2,700, really, really good value there. So, we've got the daily projections in here every single day. You can sort by DraftKings, Yahoo, or FanDuel scoring, whichever platform that you're playing on, and kind of just sort through the day's projections. Obviously, when it's a bigger slate, that'll become even more helpful. And then again, all these projections feed back in to the lineup optimizer. So if you were a premium subscriber last year, you'll know that the projections and the lineup optimizer that we had were not ours. This is all ours now. This is daily face-off product, daily face-off projections, daily face-off lineup optimizer. We spent all summer building these projections. They were back-tested against games from last season with last year's line combinations and performed extremely well. So I'm very proud of them. I'm excited to see how they perform this season. So, I feel much more confident about the product we've got this year. And I hope you guys come and join DFO Premium and win some money with us this year because the tools are much better. And again, with all of this at your disposal, with all the lineup, the day-to-day matchups with the 5v5 score and the lineup optimizer, working them together is going to be massively helpful. We also offer what's called a DFO value, which is basically just points per dollar, points per thousand on steroids. It kind of just bakes in the projection a little bit better. So you're not just basically having the guys who are low priced always popping up at the top. It takes obviously price into consideration, but it takes projection into consideration even more as well. So that's why you'll see, at points per dollar, you've got Max Pacioretty at 1.93, but his actual value score is second highest on the entire slate. So, and that's because he is projected to be the highest scoring player on tonight's slate. So, and then again, this is all just run through the implied totals from Vegas. And obviously they do a tremendous job or we'd all be rich. So very, very happy with these projections, very happy with the lineup optimizer. You can build up to 150 lineups there. You can use, whichever platform you play. You can go through showdown slates as well. So a lot, stacked by each team, game stacks, a lot of things that you can do with this lineup optimizer, and it should be huge for you guys to make money this season. So, especially for finding guys, because what I did last year a lot, again, if you're new to the show, is I went through the lines, talked about the lines, who my favorite line stacks were, who my favorite targets were throughout the show. And then at the end, I went through and talked about my favorite, defenseman plays or my favorite D punts. And now that's so easy to find using the projections tool. So obviously you've got, Victor Hedman projected as the top defenseman tonight based on the DFO value score. He's also the top defenseman on the slate. Theodore Marchessault coming in at second and third. So if you want to try to find some value plays, just sort by that. Obviously, Carson Soucy at 2,600, dirt cheap, next to minimum price, comes in pretty high. Eric Cernak and Mikhail Sergachev, both pretty underpriced, especially Sergachev at 3,400. Both look like really good value plays tonight as well. So these tools will make it so much easier to build your DraftKings or FanDuel lineups this season. So please come on over to Daily Faceoff and sign up for premium this year. And then again, we're going to be doing the show daily, usually around 4:35 p.m. Eastern. And then we'll, when we have a bigger slate than this, obviously the breakdown could go for 45 minutes to an hour sometimes, depending on the size of the slate. Some days you get, 13 gamers. So that's going to do it for today's DFO DFS show, unless anybody has any questions that I can get to before I take off. Hopefully we win some big cash tonight. It'd be a nice way to start the season off. I know DraftKings has got some massive contests, which isn't always the case with NHL. So make sure you guys go over there and fill those up so that they continue to bolster some big bolster these contests up throughout the season. So yeah, I think that's all. I'm just gonna take a sip here and see if anybody's got questions. Nope. All right. Well, again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to the DFO DFS show for October the 12th. We'll be back tomorrow for a 5-game slate. Maybe a little bit more numbers involved tomorrow since we won't have the Seattle Kraken and their mystery lineup on the slate. So please tune in again tomorrow. Smash that like button if you could. Hit the subscribe button as well so that you never miss a show. And let's win some money tonight. Good luck to everybody, and we'll see you guys back here tomorrow.